Hi, welcome back. This is Ant from Speakerstack Music. This is video 3 in a sequence of videos where I'm going to break down how I've created a techno rock song in Ableton, written, produced and recorded and produced it. In the previous video I had a look at the kick drum. In this video we're going to have a look at the snare. So we're still continuing looking at the drum kit, which I've built up and grouped together using the group function here, which if you right click you can bring up and group tracks and then drop them in, which I've done for all of the instrument channels that make up the drum kit. Rather than have that as an individual instrument channel, I've got each element of the drum kit on its own MIDI channel. So it just gives you more variety, more versatility in terms of the effects that you apply to each element of the drum kit, and you can create parameters to suit that particular part of the drum kit. Okay, so following on from the kick drum, I've followed a very similar approach with the snare, which is again to create a MIDI instrument channel, and that's channel 3 for the snare. Name it as snare, which you can do by clicking and hovering over rename, and you can rename that as snare. And then I've gone in and I've dropped an impulse instrument template into the instrument channel down here, and you can do that by clicking on the arrow up here, going to instruments, finding impulse and then clicking and dragging that in. And as I explained in my previous video, I'm just adding each part of the drum kit onto its own individual channel. So I'm just occupying this section of the impulse template with the snare, and then the kick is on a separate instrument channel with its own impulse template, and there's the kick. So with the template that you've dropped in for impulse, it's going to be blank, so you're going to want to tell impulse what sample you want to play back. So for the snare, again, if you then go into the samples section, type in snare, you bring up a whole list of all the different samples, and you can click on each of these and audition them, find one you like, and then click and drag it in. I went for the snare RTO, in fact the snare 2 RTO, which I've dropped in there. So I would have clicked on that and dropped it in, which I've done there. And then I didn't, again, as with the kick drum, I haven't changed any of the parameters in here other than just increase the decibels to 0 for the volume. And then I've added some EQ8 onto the snare sound, which you can find by going to the audio effects and then scrolling down. You can see you've got EQ8, clicking and dragging that in. And I've also added in some reverb, which you can also do by just scrolling down, finding the reverb, and again clicking and dragging that in. So with both the EQ8 and the reverb, I haven't used any of the preset sounds that you can find underneath. Those are the reverb sounds, and if you scroll up you can find the EQ parameters for different things, because I want to be able to shape the sound myself. So I've just dragged the actual audio effect in. If you do that, just to give you an idea, it ends up looking like, oops, I didn't mean to do that, it ends up looking like that. And obviously I've gone in now and I've shaped the EQ for the snare how I want it. Let's just get rid of that. What I've done is I've applied a high pass low cut filter at just above 100 Hertz. I've then incorporated a slight dip in the sound at around 1000 Hertz, but then I've increased the decibel levels up at around 10,000 Hertz. So the positioning of EQ and where you want to increase the volume, the decibels for the snare sound, is going to influence the kind of snare sound that you want. Anything boosted in this kind of region down here is going to give you a more punchy sound to the snare. Anything around this region here is going to give you a kind of a more boxy sound. And then around here you're going to get more of a kind of a crisp, snappy sound. And then if you increase the decibel range up here, which I have done, you can see it's boosted up to about 6 decibels there. You'll get something which actually creates quite a a bit of attack and pressure on the snare, so it will kind of punch through in the mix, I guess. And that's the sound I wanted to create, because what I've done with the snare is I've got it on the off beat. So with the kick, it kind of complements the kick. Every kick beat is on the on beat in the bar, and then the snare sound is on the off beat in the bar. So I'll just play you the start of this and you'll get an idea of how that sounds. So quite straightforward, but I wanted something quite solid and strong in the lower frequencies with the kick, and a snare sound that's complementing that and punching through. I've also added a reverb, which I haven't really done much to, other than just decrease the dry wet parameters to around 13%, just to give the snare a little bit more ambience in the mix. And as I said, the final thing really is the patterns that I've put in play in the sequence of the song, of the sequence of the track. And you'll see that whereas the kick is on every beat, all the way through there, the snare is on the off beat. And it's really there to complement the kick. I don't think I deviate too much from it all the way through. If there's additional percussion or additional rhythm that I required, I've used the toms and the hats to achieve that. And that's it for the snare. I'm going to post a link at the end of this video to the finished Techno Rock track. If you're interested in checking it out, seeing how it sounds, it'd be awesome for you to give it a listen. Hope you like it. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up. That'd be brilliant, just to get these videos pushed out to more people. And maybe consider subscribing to the channel if you want more videos like this. We do a lot of different tutorials on Ableton. We post our own demos. It's really just wanting to encourage people to try different things in Ableton, and just to get creative with it, really. As I say, it's a learning exercise as we're all going along in terms of our musical production journeys. So thank you once again for watching. Hope you found it useful. In the next video, we're going to have a look at the toms, and I hope to see you in the next Speakerstack video. Thanks very much.